There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Kiss 107.1 is WTLZ Saginaw. And simply the best R&B all day. Take us everywhere. Your smartphone, in your car. We're live at KissWTLZ.com. We're Kiss 107.1.
Well, good evening, Saginaw. This is Kareem Bowen. You tuned into another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I am so proud once again to be able to come in and have these conversations of relevance with you. I just want to give a shout out to Joyce Harvin, and as in her own words, as she said concerning Pastor Wilkins, she had her Rosa Parks moment. For those of you who have not tuned in, who are not part of the conversation, the hour previous on Community Connections, they were talking about the closing of the Independent Bank building that's going to take place in May. And they're looking to do this pretty quickly. It's the only bank really on that side of town, as all the others have left. We got Terry Pruitt and the NAACP and other individuals, organizers, pastors, everyone involved, trying to keep banking alive on the east side of the river. And it's interesting as we have this conversation, I'm kind of just jumping into things here, but we'll get back to the normal flow of things. It was something that was on my mind as we were coming in. As they started that whole concept of the idea of closing Saginaw High School, one of the things I said, you guys got to get ready. A famous Bishop T.D. Jakes preacher always said, get ready. Yeah. I see you, Terry. Love you, bro. But watching the state game, 27-31. I will be there. Hopefully, I get to see some of that game as well. You see him rocking the green and white for the Spartans. So we're out there. Yeah, I know they're doing the Duke thing. Thank you very much for giving us what's going on. But I want you guys to be aware that there's a land grab that's happening and some things that are taking place in our community. And you see it with the redistricting. You see it with the rezoning. You see it with the new lines for, creating additional individuals that are having civic responsibilities as commissioners over our city. There's a lot that's happening, and you have to be aware of what's taking place because all of this stuff will impact you. This is not a time to fall asleep at the wheel, but we've got to continue to be aware, be awake, because there's a move that's taking place in the city, and it impacts everybody involved. All right, so we're here. It is beautiful outside. I'm in the studio with my main man, the Rob Father. Rob, what's going on? I see you got that smooth, clean look up top.
I always have a smooth, clean look, bro. I'm good. Hello to our Straight Talk audience and Kiss WTLZ.
And so it's good to be here. It's good to be seen, y'all. And so we're going to talk, and our conversation today is going to be a little bit, absolutely, the rezoning. You look at the redistricting, the rezoning, the additional additions of commissioners. There is a lot of stuff happening and moving all at the same time.
I should remind our audiences that this is part 2 of that discussion we had last week, and that they can listen to the podcast on our website at kisswtlz.com or at your website where we record the show.
Yeah, because all of this is happening, and Washington Avenue, as Terry Reed you're saying, yeah, I see there about redone Washington Street quarter. Getting ready. When I saw that roundabout take place over there on 675, well, it isn't 675, it's 75, and 13 or Washington Avenue, whatever that number is. I'm not good with the numbers in the community. It was time to really take note of what's getting ready to take place. As you noted, Terry Reed, they're trying to rezone parts of the area that they told us that they were going to let it go back to just be green zone, but that just meant that they didn't want I'm gonna watch what I say right there. I know it's gonna be. I'm gonna keep it straight, but I caught myself. Thank you, God. They didn't want certain people over there trying to buy up land, trying to do stuff, trying to be how should we say community activists in certain ways, and so they made it green zones so that no one could really get it unless you were attached to side parcels of that land. But now we're going to see what's taking place, and I would imagine over the next 3 to 5 years, there's going to be a lot taking place from that Washington and Genesee Avenue, all the way down to that M13 roundabout on 75. So keep your eyes open, keep your ears tuned to the ground, as the Native Americans used to do, so you can hear the sound of what's getting ready to happen. All right, so we're out here. It is, man, the weather is absolutely amazing. I'm loving it. Can you believe already, Rob? It is the end of March. 1 week more, and March is gone.
Yep, it's flying through, and I couldn't be more happy. Particularly, I'm partial to daylight saving time, so
Well, speaking of which, I know that that the Senate has voted to keep daylight savings time, 24/7, like not going back to that old way, but staying this way so that we would have more time during the day. Did you hear about that?
I did read about daylight saving time being passed by the Senate, and that's up to the House of Representatives.
What do you think that this will actually take place? Because I thought one of the reasons they did it were because now we got kids that are going to be continually standing at the bus late into. I mean, it's dark anyways. It's not. So I guess it's just not as dark as long, but that was one of the issues I was always told, that we had daylight savings time.
I'm not sure. Well, I remember going to school in the dark. It had been a change back in the 60s or whatever it was. So I'm not sure how it is today in terms of crime rate and whatnot. But one way or the other, we got to choose it. It's not going to change anything, regardless of which one we choose.
Well, I mean, in a little bit, it will make a difference in the city of Saginaw. We have a new school surrounded by new banks in the downtown west side area.
Look out for its own each time, and pick up its kids on time. Then we should be fine.
And there you go. As a matter of fact, and this is something that I was going to talk about a little bit. There has been a huge. I was watching something on. I can't remember what it was, but they were talking about the number of young Black girls that are missing. And they were saying that of the 300,000 girls in the U.S. that were reported missing in 2020, 30% of those young girls, a third, were Black women. And we know that there's a real issue. And I really don't know what's going on. And we understand they're talking about how it's different when white girls go missing. We are in the Bahamas and Bermuda. We track their whole trail trying to figure out where Sally went. But 30% of the 300,000 missing women are African-American women. That's crazy to me.
It is.
That is crazy. So we got to begin to do some things. I'm not sure what's going on. You said pick your kids up on time. We've got to check in. I was watching a show that was where these women were, meeting people on Twitter and different forms of social media, meeting up with these guys. And some of these guys are sex traffickers and beaters and abusers and mass murderers.
Wow.
We've got to be a lot smarter as a community. And, we can't do what they do, if you understand what I mean.
It just used to be back in the day, and I'm saying my day, I remember your neighbor who you knew well, or someone of your relatives, or someone in the family who could drive a car or even ride a bike, looked out for the younger girls and younger boys at these schools. And I don't know why we've gotten away from that to some degree.
My thing is, what happened to the whole thing? When I was growing up, you couldn't stay at them. No, you can't stay. No, you can't stay the night. No, you can't stay the night. The only people that we were staying the night over were your cousins and things of that nature. But you weren't running all over the place, and your parents knew where you were. You weren't going. If you went out and you went somewhere different than where you were supposed to be and didn't call back, then you weren't going out no more. So we got to get back to some of these strict, some of these parenting skills that really protect our young people. All right, so we've been talking, as you noticed, Terry's giving me the rundown, and Terry, that is going to be your official job. If you can listen to your phone or whatever it is at the same time, so you can update a brother on what the score is, the running tally is of the score. We would greatly appreciate that, because NCAA Bracketville is fully underway. We know that that team, the blue and the gold team, they made it into the Sweet 16s. Congratulations. If you are a Michigan Wolverine fan, Michigan State has their hands full as they are vying for their opportunity to go to the Sweet 16 against the Dukies. So we're hopeful and we're optimistic about what's going on. Ain't nobody scared of no Duke. It's just another team like everybody else. We're gonna do what it do. All right, hearts and prayers, y'all, go out to Tracy Braxton, dead at 50. I saw this on last week and I was just like, wow, this is so sad. She was a self-proclaimed black sheep of the family. She died of cancer. And those of you who like this, she was actually one of my favorites on the Braxton Family Values reality show. But she is dead of cancer at the age of 50. And what was interesting, I've been seeing this guy, Kevin Hart, showing up and popping up in places, giving sympathy and encouragement to keep people all over the place. And I guess he sent her a message of encouragement the day before the death, and then reached out to the ladies that were a part of the group, the family, as well. So rest in peace, rest in power. Tracy Braxton, gone too soon at the tender age of 50. 50 is really young now, Rob. I'm knocking on 50's door, so it is looking very young these days. And to think that, this young woman is now gone, it just seemed like she never had peace. If you were able to kind of follow her on that story, her storyline was one that she was never coming to terms. She didn't fit in. As my mother said, she never fit in. But she was, in fact, the self-proclaimed black sheep of that family. Hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to her. Thank you, Terry, for giving us that update. It just needs to stay real tight to the end of that second half of that game. All right, so continuing on, the war in Ukraine. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this in a different capacity. Rob, yesterday I filled up one of my vehicles, and I paid $4.14 per gallon. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! I feel like little Annie on what movie Annie. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! It is crazy. $4.14 per gallon, nearly $86 to fill up that vehicle. I'm just saying, like, it's time to consolidate now. Hey, anybody got a bike shop? Bikes are a very important piece. I'm gonna be rocking that bike as much as I can until something happens with these prices. Now, the good thing is that the price of a barrel of oil has gone down, and so typically, what is to happen is that it should be kind of what President Reagan used to talk about, trickle down economics. So technically, since the price of the barrel of oil has gone down, there should also be a decrease in the price of gas. But y'all find out if you're friendly gas station attendants are not gouging you, or if you will actually see a decrease in those prices. Rob, why are you looking like that?
Because we've been here before. We were shocked at $2. We were shocked at $3. This doesn't surprise me.
Well, Rob, I want to go back and be shocked at $2 and $3 is exactly what I'm saying, my man. This $4 and possibly, out on the West Coast, one of my friends was out there. They said they're already paying over $5 a gallon for gas. That's just, man, we're gonna need another part-time job to keep up with these things that are going on.
And just for those who are interested in trying to siphon gasoline, as I used to do when I was a kid back in the 70s, nowadays cars got anti-siphon devices on there, so I wouldn't try that.
So what does that mean?
It means you can't siphon gas as easily from a car as you used to back in the day. You can just stick a hose down into the tank there and siphon gas out of it. Nowadays, a lot of the new cars, particularly those of the 2000s, have an anti-siphon device. You can stick a hose down there and willfully and easily siphon gasoline from the vehicle. I know people. The reason I know is because I work at auto stores.
And so you saw people trying. Okay,
people have been coming and buying the locks for their cars to cover to replace the gas, the fuel tank.
Yeah, I've had a lock, and people were like, "Why'd you put?" Because I wanted to make sure that nobody would. Now I really don't want nobody stealing my gas. It costs too much. All right, so we're talking about the war on Ukraine. $4.14 a gallon. I want to talk about this refugee situation. We teased at it last week, Rob, for a little bit. Millions of people have fled the country. They're saying maybe about 3 million children now have now been a part of that refugee exegesis or exiting of the country. And what is interesting is how the world is coming to their rescue, as I think should be the case. We are our brother's keeper. However, Dr. Phil said this, and so I'm gonna say what Dr. Phil said on Straight Talk, and not necessarily myself, even though I would say it myself anyway. But it was good to hear Dr. Phil. He was saying how the Ukraine refugees are being treated differently, better in fact, than refugees from the Southern Hemisphere, meaning the Black and brown refugees as they come. Now, I was having this conversation with somebody. If you all remember, down in Texas, They had this major, it was 10,000 refugees that were coming from Haiti. Haiti had experienced what had happened once before. They had this major earthquake that took place. Port-au-Prince, they hadn't even fully recovered from the previous earthquake that had taken place. People were yet living in tents in many places of the city. This major earthquake comes in, and their president of their country was assassinated at the same time by guerrilla warfare. These people were afraid, so they began to flee the country. Many of them ended up coming to the U.S. via South America, via Mexico, vis-a-vis, and they were they were like, "Hey, Texas is across this little body of water, and our patriots, as they do down there on the border of Texas." The governor of that particular city, I can't remember the city in Texas, right underneath the bridge. They came out, began to tell the citizens to arm themselves to keep them from crossing over. And we saw 10,000 plus individuals, Haitian refugees, that were on the border trying to get to a place of safety, trying to find a place to, get their kids straight and all of those other things. And they were denied access into the United States. I don't see much of a difference. This was devastating, total devastation, because this wasn't just a governmental issue, even though that was one there. It was also a natural disaster, which meant their places were not livable or inhabitable. And so when we look at this, I wonder, as Dr. Field has said, that there has been some preferential treatment that is going on with these Ukraine. Now, I'm going to tell you, because there was one official in Germany, and this is exactly how he coined this. He said that these refugees that are coming from Ukraine, these are individuals. I have no idea who that is. These are individuals who are intelligent. They're intelligent. They're sophisticated. They're degreed. They're a part of the elite. These are not like refugees from Haiti or these other countries. And so he made a distinction saying that these individuals were smart, they were intelligent, and all of that other stuff. And what's the difference? How do we know who's coming in from Haiti? But it is interesting when I see these things that there is always, I don't know what's wrong with black folks. We can't get treated right. Black men ain't got nobody to love them except to Jesus. So Rob, do you see, don't start with you right now. Rob, I got him in his gut right on that one. But it seems like throughout history, we are continually finding ourselves on the wrong side of the coin toss. We never get the fair treatment. Do you see a disparity in treatment with what's happening with Ukraine? The United States said that they've got to prepare their borders to allow hundreds of thousands of these refugees from Ukraine to get here.
Same story, different country.
Same thing.
Same story, different country.
So I'm not crazy.
No.
Okay.
No. Well, let me backtrack. To a few black men who see the same thing, what someone else may see, we don't know. Okay, so I'm biased because I happen to be black, and I feel for people who are also of color. Not saying anything else, racist or anything, but I'm just saying the history is right there. It's obvious. Okay.
Well, it was just a few months ago. Wasn't a long time ago for us to take a note of that, right? So I think hey, I love the fact, and then as we had reported and has been reported on other news outlets and ambassadors of other countries coming in, the Ukrainians didn't want to help the black people get out that we're not a part of that country. We're not helping blacks. So we continually get this kind of treatment. Yet our tax dollars are going over to fund. Do you think, Rob, I'm going to ask you again, because now this is week number 4. Are we in, or are we heading into World War IV? Or is something going to happen?
We haven't got to 3 yet. But I hear what you're saying.
Well, it was a fight for me when number 45 was in office. I felt like I went through a whole war. Y'all, excuse me, World War III, excuse me.
Hey, you might be right. Maybe World War IV, for all we know. I don't know. I'm not going to even call that. I'm hoping that somehow someone will come to their senses and try, straighten out some things. But the way I see it from a veterans, military standpoint, for what I know from working in the Persian Gulf War, we will eventually get involved early to some means. NATO will get involved in some way. Even the president of Ukraine said, why are we being challenged, and why won't you do more about it? Have you been a NATO country? Would this have been any different? And I thought that was China throwing a spitball thrown at the United States because here we are.
Well, I got some, this everybody's championing. Oh, Zelensky was so amazing. Zelensky need to take one of several seats to some degree. I know that he's fighting for us. What'd you say?
I thought exactly.
Okay, I know you're fighting for your country, and the world wants to support that effort. And I think that everyone around the world thinks that this atrocity has to be dealt with, and we've got to deal with it in a manner. He wants everyone to be at war because Ukraine is at war. But the fact of the matter is, if you understand your history and you understand how Ukraine became sovereign and you understood what was going on with the Soviet Union, I mean, come on now. We understand it. To me, it is a similar conversation when we talk about what takes place in Middle Eastern countries.
And that's one reason why Ukraine is not in the country now, because of things that happened in the past.
Absolutely. So, but dude is coming in here with some strong language. And I'm just like, look, you can't, I was always taught, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm just kind of like this dude, basically calling the United States punks. And then as soon as he says something, then we're rushing to give him, $850 million. We've given him $1 billion. We could be canceling student loans in this country.
It's amazing how history repeats itself, because Churchill tried for the longest time to get Roosevelt to get us into World War II with the Germans and Japanese. And it wasn't until the Japanese attacked us that we were forced into it. Now, this doesn't happen this way with Ukraine and us challenging Russia, because no one wants a war between Russia and the United States. We don't want that. We know what will happen, especially with crazy dictators and leaders who want to just have it and profit from the war machine itself.
Well, so I'm hoping, and I don't know what y'all, but y'all keep your ears to the ground on this war. And in the midst of this war happening in Ukraine, I just think that, as I said to you, Rob, was this a year and a half ago, a year ago, that the casualty on the things that would pop up in the country and around the world would be voting rights for African Americans. I said this a long time ago. This always seems to be the case. And so what will take place is they'll hurry up at the last second to give some kind of a temporary Band-Aid, if do anything at all. And once again, Black people will have gone through a degradation of about 50, 60 years with more voting rights in peril and people taking land grabs and things that we're seeing here today. And I want to say this, when I probably about 10, 12 years ago, there was a white man. I was listening to the radio down in Lansing. I think I was still living in Lansing, and there was a white guy that said, he called into the radio show, and he said he didn't care about Black people becoming NBA players and athletes and actors and making millions of dollars. He said, but I've never lived in a country where a Black man makes the laws that govern me. And he made it very clear where the real power in the nation lies, and it's in our political system. Being able to redistrict and gerrymander and redline and to say what is race and what's not race, and we'll have this conversation on Straight Talk as well. But one of the issues as we were fighting for our rights in the 60s, and today I want to talk about Juneteenth, and there's a reason why I want to talk about Juneteenth before we get to April, because we need to have a celebration of Juneteenth like we never have before. It's time for us to really celebrate our legacy.
Which is now a legal holiday.
Yes, which is now a legal holiday. But we need to embrace and celebrate that as we never have before. But back to what I was saying. So when we look at all of these things that took place, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, we look at this, which we'll talk about a little bit today because those are called Reconstruction Amendments. Then we look at this move in the 50s, the 60s for equality and justice and for freedom and equity and inclusion, all of those DEI words that we use now that are buzzwords that companies use, but really are just words and phrases until action takes place. We saw with some of the things, and even like the Fourth Amendment, the search and seizure that was put into place. We saw in the 70s with the laws that were taking place and that were being instituted, a real pushback to the progress that took place in the 1960s, when we saw the Supreme Court take up the concept of what is racial prejudice and what is prejudice versus racism based upon the color of the skin. And they used the color of the skin, stating that the color of your skin is the defining factor. There could be no discrimination because of race, color, creed. Y'all know all that stuff. You got any money from the government, you had to sign a document, color, creed, skin, all that. And so racism became something that was tied to the color of your skin. And that became the sole definition of what racism is. And what it did to the progress that we were making in the 60s and the 70s against, the Jim Crow laws and things, is that it made it very difficult. It became latent. So that's where we begin that idea, that concept of systemic racism, because now I can't do it because of the color of your skin. So I have to use other means by which I can disclude you. Therefore, we see that now the Constitution, in its efforts to be encouraging or empowering, actually put a wall and really kind of defeated a lot of the things that were happening in the 60s by defining race solely as you being treated unfairly by the color of your skin. But they don't take in those nuanced approaches, those microaggressions, those things that are put into place that challenge Black folks. It may be just the fact that you move your qualification for a job that only requires a bachelor to a master's degree, understanding that you are going to clear out a whole bunch of people of color, brown and Black folks, from being able to be a part of that pool. Rob, what are you thinking there?
I'm just thinking how that works with the zoning situation. You make a certain amount of money. If you don't, then, you're being pushed out. Just like the whole banking thing that's being closed out. There's not enough people with big money coming in to keep that bank there. So they pack their bags and want to move out,
So it's important for us to celebrate, to hold fast to Sankofa the moment. That means reach back to our past, hold on to it as we parachute and project toward the future. So we're going to talk about why it's important for us this year to really celebrate Juneteenth. And there, I want to tell you about the discussion that took place around that. All right. All right, Morris Day, and maybe I didn't do that good of a thing, but if you are 80s baby, 70s, 80s baby, you understand Morris Day and the time. Morris Day was that artist that came out. He was a Prince lookalike for a long time, but he couldn't get the swirl kind of right in the front. So he was the sidekick. I always call him the sidekick, but he wrote songs like Jungle Love, Jerk Out, 777 93 11. Y'all know those songs. And Gigolos need love, get lonely too. It was interesting because I was watching Paisley Park. Prince's estate owns all of that music, and based upon some suggestions or some things that they did, he can no longer perform any of the songs because Prince is the controller of the masses. I told y'all a long time ago when there was this whole thing. Y'all know we had that light skin, brown skin battle, Michael Jackson versus Prince. I was, my brother, brown skin brother, we did the Jerry curl back in the 80s. Everybody was rocking one. You kept your soul glowing. That's why movies like Coming to America and with the McDowells was so funny, because we could all relate to it. The Jerry curl stain couches, all of that stuff. But what was interesting is that back in that day, there was that rivalry and that existed between Prince and Michael Jackson as to who was, the greatest. Michael Jackson was definitely the king of pop, hands down. You cannot deny it. I go back and I just look at some of his footage, especially when he goes a cappella and he's rehearsing, trying to let everybody know. He writes music, writes songs, doesn't play an instrument, but he writes songs and he hears the music as he's writing the lyrics, and then he, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. He's telling the instrument, the musicians, this is what I hear, this is what you play. Now, Prince came from he was the quintessential musician. Prince is my greatest artist of all time. If there was a secular artist, it would have to be Purple Madness himself, Purple Rain, Prince. And Prince was that individual that wrote the music and the symphony, or he played all of the instruments that were in his music. Both of them just creative genius. Well, now Prince is in a place that his estate is now in control. And that was something that Michael never had the ability to do for a long time until the acquisition of that Sony owning the Beatles and all of that other stuff. That may be one of the reasons why that brother is no longer with us, because of his ownership of Sony. I'm telling you, when a black man stakes a claim and he owns something that white men want, he becomes a problem to society. And that's the fact. That's just the way it operates. So anyways, we're hoping that Paisley Park does the right thing. Come on, Morris Day has to get out there. Him and Jerome, Bring Me a Mirror. They got to be able to make some money somehow. Come on, let Morris Day do the jerk out. Come to the Soaring Eagle, throw some classic songs. Bring Wendy and Lisa and Andre Simone, all of the old school folks from that Purple Madness parade, and allow him to get that stuff back. So Morris Day, good luck out there. We hope you get your money back or your music back so that you can play and make some music in your old age. Remember Apollonia and Vania, that whole Prince came to the scene. Michael was this iconic artist that came from a family, but Prince was this iconic artist that created and brought to the stage Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, this whole grouping of individuals. Yeah. When you look at all of Wendy and Lisa and
Minneapolis sound,
the Minneapolis sound, absolutely. And so it's really amazing when I think about it. I can't wait till the story of his life comes out. Some of y'all like, hey man, y'all know y'all love Prince and Michael Jackson. Stop being so deep. All right, so confirmation hearings that we're getting to this. The confirmation hearings for Judge Jackson are set to take place on tomorrow. Now, I want y'all to lean in and just pay a little attention. I know everybody's tired of the news. We're tired of politics. But I need you all to, because this is a historic moment. This is the first African-American female that is being put on our nation's highest court. But I want us to take note of how she is being handled. We saw what was going on with all of the Kavanaugh and all of the other judges that the Republicans have put in office. But this sister is now getting ready to go through its confirmation process. Lindsey Graham met with her all of 15 minutes. And so you want to talk about a dog and pony show. I'm going to just meet with you just to say we met. And I don't like you. I won't confirm you. It'll be interesting because last year when she was going to the circuit court, she received 3 Republican votes for her confirmation. I want to see what's happening. Josh Hawley. Now, y'all need to know who Josh Hawley is. He's a senator. Can't remember what state he's from. I want to say like Minnesota or somewhere wherever he's from. But I call him the QAnon cult favorite. He is now saying that one of the things that, he's positioning his argument that one of the things he wants to hold against her is that he feels that she's sympathetic to child porn, people who have been convicted in child porn cases. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. They're going to throw everything at her. I just pray that they're respectful in their process. The Democrats have a slight lead. My desire would be that we would move past partisan lines and that we would show a significance in the moment as well as the individual in her confirmation. So there's a lot going on in the world around us. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get into this conversation about Juneteenth. I got a phone call that sparked my interest because I think that we've got to begin to celebrate our history and teach our young people our history. Because working with 9th graders, I'm realizing, Rob, we're in trouble. Because many of these kids, as we were talking, they didn't even know who Dr. Martin Luther King was. And, so we as a generation, we take a lot of things for granted, but our kids are being lost. The legacy is being lost. And if that is the case, when you lose your past and you lose your identity, you'll be destined to repeat things over again. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after paying some bills with more Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
At Culver's, we believe there's a right to prepare a North Atlantic cod fillet sandwich.
I forgot I didn't make the change at the top.
I did. The Culver family used to prepare it in their Wisconsin supper clubs over 3 years ago.
Juneteenth.
The finest hand-cut cod fillets, batter each by hand.
I gotta on that zoning thing.
No shortcuts, just
I gotta some meetings that I gotta have this week.
So good.
So I can come back
It's a tradition, all right. Culver's North Atlantic cod fillet dinner or
No, you're good. You're good.
Delicious.
Hi, welcome to Culver's.
There is definitely an art to handcrafting a rich, creamy Culver's concrete mixer. Start by scooping our so incredibly fresh vanilla or chocolate frozen custard. Then add whatever mixins you crave. Cookie dough, salted caramel, Butterfinger, hello. Blend to you the perfect balance of goodies from top to bottom with every blue spoonful. Indulge.
That's 30 minutes for this try.
What's that? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel, Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Have you ever wondered why eyeglasses cost so much? The eyewear industry has been dominated by a single company that's kept prices artificially high.
Yikes.
Warby Parker was created to change that. They design and produce their own eyewear and then sell it directly to you for a fraction of the price. Warby Parker's high-quality glasses start at just $95, including your prescription. Try 5 pairs of frames for free. Go to warbyparker.com to pick your 5 frames to try on at home for free. That's warbyparker.com.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on Kiss 107.1.
Hey, this is Kareem back, and we're back with more Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. For those of you out there social media land, shout out. Hey, I see Grady Mitchell out there from Florida in the chat stream. So good to see you out there. So great. Fam, what's going on? Glad to see you following along with what's happening here in the city of Saginaw. Jackie Wade Day down in Lansing. God bless you all. And my girl, Alma Collier. Love you. It's love to have you out there. Shout out to Tech Brown. Shout out to you as well. Those of you who are listening and continue to listen week after week as we share what is important in the community during the commercial break. Some of you guys may have heard it over the commercials. My guy Rob, the Bob Father, and I were talking. He says, "Hey, that was the longest what's on my mind that you've had to date." You know what? It is, because there's a lot on my mind. There's a lot going on and a lot that I would love and really desire to say, but I just could not. I have to be thematic in my approach, so I'll share some here. Like the candy we used to eat and love as kids, now and later. Have some now and save some for later. All right, so we're going to get into our conversation today.
We know about now and later.
Hey, come on. Hey, you know, I'm going to bring you the new school with a little old school flavor. I got a little bit of all of that. You know, and I'm going to say this, and my mom is going to kill me when I say this. She's like, "Why do you always do this to me?" So she's leaning forward. You know, Rob, I told you this before, that my family, I grew up with 2 DJs in the family. So those of you who are listening out there and you know who Mellow Fellow was and Sparkle, then you know my family. So I grew up listening to the oldie but goodies and the blues and Johnny Blue Bland and Johnny Taylor. I mean, come on. Don't play. Don't let me have to let that one out. I'm trying to keep it together, all right? But I grew up with all of that. The Spinners, the Hot and Four Tops. I mean, Fifth Dimension. We can go there. I can share those things. And my parents just had an amazing record collection that they would share. So I got a lot of that old school guy. You know, I'm not a millennial. I am a young, not baby boomer, but Gen Xer. So I'm at the lower spectrum of the Gen Xers. But I work a lot with these millennials. So but I can take you all the way back if you want to go, because you know, Stairway to Heaven. You don't want that, Rob. You know, I might have to come in on your Classic Soul Sundays and sit in with you. But I certainly appreciate you guys continually listening in. But we're going to talk a little bit about something that I think is very important. And I want to get to this conversation now. Some people may say, "Why are you talking about Juneteenth in April?" And I want to share this. I got an inbox message and then had a couple different phone calls and text message conversations with a Miss Renee Morris. Those of you who know who Miss Renee Morris is, you guys will know that she is in charge of a group that has put together a series of events. I think it's like Black Entrepreneurs, or I want to get exactly what that is, but she's putting together an amazing Juneteenth celebration. And so we had some conversations, and I said, we cannot wait until Juneteenth. This is what we do in our community. This is the thing that really boils my gizzard. I don't know what that, I just sounds like an old phrase. I just made it up right now. This is the thing that really gets me going, is that we have something that's amazing. We have something that is of great content and something of great value and importance, but we never take the time to really put it out there the way that it needs to be put out there. She has a group called the Chamber of Successful Black Entrepreneurs, which I was not a part of or asked to be a part of or even knew about it. But there are some individuals that are a part of this board. I just want to meet her committee chair people for this program. And I want to tell you why this is so important. because she is putting together a Juneteenth celebration. I think the location is Morley Park. And there's a lot of opportunities for those of you who are in the community, Terry Reed, and others that are out there to get involved with what's happening. So Renee Hawkins Morris and Linda Burks Jackson, they're the committee chairs, program committee individuals, and you'll recognize some of these individuals. Valerie Woods, Alethea Taylor, Carla Barton, Mary Jackson, Bob Johnson, George Wilson, Anika Nelson, Cassandra Garrett Hicks, Kisha, Portia Lawson, and Keisha, thank you so very much. She works down at SEDC. She is doing an amazing job. If you guys are starting jobs and you are an entrepreneur and you're looking for the tools and also funding for getting started, go down there and check out Keisha Port and Lawson. She's, I think, in room 124, if I'm not mistaken, right on the first floor of City Hall. But Lamia McClendon, Rose Davis, I'm saying these names because hopefully they'll connect with you. Shelia Meredith, Christian Garrett, Tasha Works, Courtney Garrett, and Charles Cork. Well, they form a group that is called the Chamber of Successful Black Entrepreneurs. And their endeavor for this year is to put on a Saginaw Juneteenth celebration. And so they are looking for sponsorships. They're looking for talent. They're looking for people to get involved. They are looking for people who look and act just like you and me. And I want you guys to get involved in this. We're going to talk about this. The Eric Poole, Eric living in Springfield, Texas, outside of Houston from Saginaw. Hello, love your show. Eric, man, we love you. Thank you for tuning in to this. We certainly appreciate you being a part of this conversation. Now, listen to this. We're going to talk about Juneteenth, but I need you all to understand it's important for us as Black people. Nobody is going to celebrate our history and our people and our past the way that we have. And we didn't understand. Many of us had no understanding what even Juneteenth was. I'll tell you, growing up, I never heard of Juneteenth. I remember being probably 8 or 9, probably about 13 years old. And there was this lady that would walk around when I was growing up under Bishop Pryor, Victorious Believers. And one Sunday she came through and she was like, "Have you heard? Spread the word, Juneteenth." We were dying laughing at her because she was dressed in African garb and we were ignorant. And so ignorance is the thing that caused us to laugh, Rob. But she was just running, "Have you heard? Spread the word, Juneteenth." And she went on this whole display not knowing that we were the fools and not the lady that was putting on the demonstration. But the reason it was that way is because we have failed to educate our young people on the things that are of great importance. And so I want you guys to lean into this conversation. I want to talk to you about what Juneteenth is. I want to share with you all some very key things. Marcus Garvey gave this quote, and this is something that she shared as well. "Be as proud of your race today as your fathers were in the days of yore. We have a beautiful history, and we shall create another in the future that will astonish the world." Those are words by Mr. Marcus Garvey. And some of you are saying who Marcus Garvey is. But let me tell you why I think this is important. Back in January, when we were celebrating Dr. King's legacy, there was a request that our young people, the kids that I work with, that are part of the Dow Treasure Academy, that we did programming for MLK Day. And so, I began by just inquiring, like, "Hey, what do you guys tell me something about Martin Luther King?" And these kids could literally not tell me a single thing about who Dr. King was. And I said, "Does he even sound familiar? Like, we've heard the name before, but they don't talk about him." And so I said, "Okay, civil rights." And they were looking at me like, "Oh, that's what the Black people was fighting for, not to be slaves." I'm like, "Well, not exactly. We were free from slavery." But it just goes, teachers have so many of the things that they're currently dealing with in classrooms. We have a lot of classrooms across the nation that have what we call permanent substitutes, who are basically nothing more than, baby watchers, babysitters. What are you saying, Rob?
I'm sorry, but it's the parents' responsibility to pass on our culture. I made it my responsibility to pass on to my kid this culture, and to this day, he's 26 years old. Will be next this Tuesday. I still tell him something about Black history or remind him about his Black culture because he needs that. I think it's a parent's responsibility, and parents, if you did not do it to your child, there's shame on you.
And Rob, I agree with you. I think that parents have that responsibility. But I also think that parents have been swamped with a number of other responsibilities and a number of other things that are going on. So for some people, am I sitting here trying to teach my children about Marcus Garvey and Nate X, or I got to work now? We have, if there are two parents, which is highly unlikely, seeing that 68% of young Black people grow up in single parent homes. We got a mom who's trying to put food on the table. She's changing diapers. She's making a bacon, frying it up in the pan. If y'all remember those old 80s commercials, you know what I'm talking about. She is out there doing it all on her own. So there's some things that we have to rely on the village and the community to make happen.
I was raised in 4 different foster homes, and neither one of them had a father. And yet I had a strong mother who worked her butt off and did to me what I just said. I understand that parents were bogged down, but you know what? What we didn't have, what the kids have today, they spend too much damn time in front of the TV and on the internet. Get them off the TV, get them into a book, and read something for a change.
You're not going to get me to argue against that point. I am agreeing with you, but I am saying that there are a lot of things, Rob. Even when I was growing up, and I come from a generation that's a little bit younger than yours. I want to make sure he's aware of that.
You hear that, Geraldine?
But even in my generation and growing up for a large portion of time, I came from, I was a single parent family, and I saw my mother working and my grandparents helping out, and so. The issue was around survival, not so much preserving history. But what we have lost in this process, and this is where it takes a village, and this is where the village concept comes in. We have lost the fact, we've lost respect for our elders because the elders have no longer been able to been given the opportunity to share what elders do, which is the legacy and the history and the stories and what
wisdom.
Africa, the wisdom, absolutely. In Africa, I share all the time. They have something called griots, GRIOT. There's also I think a magazine, online magazine called the Griot, and it shares the history and the things that were important. Griots in Africa, they share the oral history of Africa from generation to generation, and their entire role was to make sure that the history of that nation went from the heart, from the mind to the heart to the mouth, to the ears of the next generation.
A call from full effect.
Absolutely. And so there was this responsibility and this nurturing of our history in such a way. Well, when we came, that was one of the key pieces that we have lost. And so now we've got to go back and we get upset. This is not even what I was even trying to have a conversation about. No. This isn't you. This is just, I'm thinking about this. We get upset about the fact that they don't want to teach CRT, critical race theory. They don't want white kids to feel bad about the atrocity that's taking place. But you haven't even told your kids about slavery. I had some conversations with these young people, and they were sharing how these things just kind of took them away. But let's get to what we want to talk about today on Juneteenth. Now, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment, and we're going to call those Reconstruction Amendments because that's how they've been prefaced and regarded in history. These were amendments that were initially taken up in 1965 after Abraham Lincoln had written the Emancipation Proclamation, and he had signed that in 1863. A couple of years later, we have these 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which are basically one is saying that, slavery is abolished, the 13th Amendment. The 14th Amendment comes in and says, now that we've abolished slavery, we also now want to extend to these new free individuals citizenship, since they did build the whole country, and we didn't pay them for it. That's a sidebar. So now we want to give and extend to these new citizens, these new individuals, citizenship. And then we come to the 15th Amendment and naturalization as well, because whatever indigenous people were here, and many people believe that blacks were already here, the native individuals of the land, which we call the Native Americans or the indigenous people, they also were given the right to be citizens because their land was taken as well. Colonization was a trip, boy. And so when we look at that, we take that into consideration. Then the 15th Amendment says, okay, I guess if you're going to be citizens, we should make it okay for you to vote. We looked at you as 3/5 human for most of your existence. Now we're going to say that slavery is no longer. We find out, oh, you are human. You are a whole man. So we're going to abolish slavery. Then we're going to give you citizenship, and then we're going to, with the 15th Amendment, give you the right to vote. Okay, so that is stuff that took place, but before any of that took place, in 1865, 66, and I think the last one was ratified in 67, the 15th Amendment.
All during the Reconstruction era after the Civil War.
Absolutely. So slavery ends, and now, we go through this period of what we considered, and we've talked about this a million times, this period of time called the Jim Crow era. And during that period of time, blacks were now free, barely, and now being put under laws that were challenging the new freedom that they were then given. And these Jim Crow, so the 13th, 14th, and the 15th Amendment were kind of an answer to these new laws. For example, you just were now found out that you were free. The emancipation for those who were free set you free. Now it's illegal to be unemployed. So you get thrown back into jail. Guess what your punishment was? To go work back on the plantation, this time in more dismal conditions than you were when you were on the plantation full time. So those farm plantation owners, they didn't have to worry about if you were going to get sick or not, because they would just take another servant or another prisoner and put them in. So we went through this whole period of Jim Crow. Then we finally, when we get to this Emancipation Proclamation, which was supposed to basically say that all slaves were now free. They were human. Slavery is abolished. Let them free, give us free, as our Cinque moment was from Amistad. We then see that didn't take place. But in 1862, this is December 31st, 1862. And if a lot of y'all that go to church, y'all gonna understand some of this stuff. Thank you, David Ferguson down in Lansing, sharing what we have. Some were free. Yeah, some were not free. And Lisa Coney, you're absolutely right. Juneteenth celebrations are an opportunity to make our community is registered to vote. That is the most exciting thing that I can think of, Sister Coney, that if during this time of celebration, we recognize that we have to vote, because if we can take the swift of a pen and make people free, we can also make them prisoners once again. So we need to be getting out there and an opportunity to vote. So as this took place, everybody did not know that they were free. And as a matter of fact, some of the plantation owners waited till the harvest was coming in the fall of 1865 to even tell some of their slaves long after. But I want to say this, in 1862, those of you who grew up in the church, on New Year's Eve, which is what we call it, we would always do something called watch night service. Now, I never understood where this came from, but now in history, this is why history is so important for us. In 1862, December 31st, they had their first, what was called a watch night service, and it was celebrated for the first time in Black communities in America. And the service was supposed to be, it was called Freedom's Eve, because they understood that the president was going to be writing this emancipation and freeing the slaves. So all of them gathered at midnight on December 31st, 1862, waiting for the anticipation of the clarion call and the releasing of the news of the Emancipation Proclamation. It's interesting because my entire life as a young boy, I grew up going to watch night service, Rob, and never understood really. I just thought it was how you brought the new year in. Not understood that this new year was brought with the anticipation of the news that was soon to come, something that went all the way back to our freedom as Black folks. So in June 19th of 1865, this is down in Galveston, Texas. We had federal troops that arrived there in Galveston, Texas, which is a beautiful place to go. They finally took control of the state to ensure that all enslaved people were freed, that they were aware of this, because they did not know they were still doing what they were doing. And so they came in, and there was a reading of this proclamation, General Orders number 3, that the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, that all slaves are now free. And like I told you, that was in June. Many of those plantation owners was like, not today. We got a field and a crop harvest to bring in. And they held off this information for many of those slaves until the harvest came in in September, October, November of that same month of 1865. And so Juneteenth is a way for us to commemorate what we would say is the Independence Day of Black people across America. Because the fact of the matter is, if one of us is yet bound, we're all bound. Justice, the threat to justice, anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere from that mentality. So Juneteenth, 1865, which is a hybrid of June and the 19th coming together, is the celebration of independence to the Negro slave once and for all in this country. So in Galveston, the following year in 1866, they began celebrating this great this great holiday and celebrating it, calling it Freedom Day, and a number of other lingos that you'll hear regarding this. But in essence, this is the Independence Day from slavery. This is when the Negro slave finally became a citizen, of the United States. Their idea, their understanding of voting became something that they were able to have. And as Sister Coney said, she said it best. I am so hopeful. And so I wanted to share this with you all in April because we're having a series of meetings. I'm actually going to be meeting with Miss Renee and Miss Linda on this coming Tuesday. My desire is that we get them in here on this show, that we share with them, that they're able to share with you their vision. Now they have a Juneteenth queen that is going to be crowned, a week of festivities. I would love to see, as we do with the African Cultural Festival that takes place over on Morley Park. Some of you guys know it as the Black Arts Festival or Black Arts Fair, the longest one that is in existence in the country that we have. That's in August, and our guy Ralph Martin, he is going to be at the helm of it. I would love to see us add additional dates that we can celebrate the rich culture and the beauty of our history. This needs to be an opportunity and a moment for us to host what I consider legacy reading rooms where we share and take the moments and the idea or the concept of the griot, that we pass this history down to our young people. It is a travesty of our history that we have young people who are in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grades who have no understanding of who Dr. Martin Luther King is. He is probably one of the most whitewashed, iconic figures. And don't get mad at me, I'm going to tell you the truth. He is one of the most whitewashed, iconic figures of our champions of our civil rights history. And the reason I say whitewashed is because he is the one, because he was nonviolent. He was not Malcolm X. He was not Nate X. He was one that was palpable for all communities to be able to handle. They aren't even being told of him. And we've got to begin to get into position and understand that the purpose of history is to learn from history is records of the past. That's what my history told me. History teacher told me the purpose of history to learn from past mistakes so that they are not repeated again. So Lisa Coney, you are a voter registration beast guru. I welcome you to that conversation. I ask that you guys like, tag, and share this information. And as I bring in that group that is responsible, and I'm seeing here Yvonne Daniels, our content brand manager here at the station. She says, we are working on what I think will be one of the most diverse SACFs ever. Great ideas. Thanks. And so I think that it's important for us. And you know, Yvonne, in terms of getting the station involved, you know, I'm always running my mouth. I know that you told me that you guys wanted that community presence. I think them coming in and helping us celebrate this be a day where we bring relics of our past, pieces of our past, history, sharing the stories, celebrating, getting people out registered to vote, helping to change the dynamic that your vote doesn't count. We understand that this nation is run and the laws of this nation are the way that we are able to make change happen. Lisa Coney, I'm willing to help organize a voter registration booth. That is what we need. That is what Sankofa, that is what Juneteenth is about. The spirit of Juneteenth lies in the fact that we recognize the importance of our history in a way that no one else ever will, and that we all celebrate. That's Saginaw African Cultural Fest. Gotcha. in case for those who didn't know. So we have come to the end of our show for today. I want you to like, tag, and share this conversation. I will bring those individuals in so that they can share why it is important for us to continue to celebrate Juneteenth. This is, in fact, the legacy of celebration of our freedom as Negro slaves, real citizens, real freedom, based upon the details of the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. I thank you guys for tuning in with me in today's conversation. I did not know we were going to have a history lesson on today, but this is always great when we can empower each other with knowledge and understanding, because if knowledge is power, then ignorance is dangerous. Thank you guys for tuning in today. We guys hope you have an amazing weekend. Enjoy the rest of the sunshine, because as soon as it came, you know it will be gone. Love you all. Grace and peace.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.